Hey, I don't even know where this little chat's going to go. There's just so much to say inside of me lately. So I'll try and create a little bit of an intro to it and then just see where I go from there with my little chat podcast today. I don't even know if I'll post this, but yeah. I am in Melbourne, Australia, in Victoria. And for those of you that are not in Australia, which is most people that follow me on Instagram and probably here on my little YouTube channel, if you don't know what's going on in Australia, we have been in the longest and toughest lockdown in the history of the world, other than times that would be like World War II, World Wars, Cold Wars, things like that. We have been locked down for over coming into 300 days. And that is really, I'm going to try and, what I want to do is, first of all, I want to say for anyone out there that's asking me if I'm okay, I'm not okay. I'm just not. And the longer that this has gone on, the harder it is for me to figure out a way of how I'm going to snap the fuck out of this. I can't, even now I feel restricted just saying like what's happening in Melbourne, what's been happening here. It's very, very difficult to deal with and explain. But yeah, I'm in a lockdown, so I can't go more than 15 Ks from my house. It was at one stage 5 Ks. You can't go outside your house after 9 p.m. You can't do really anything. All the retail's shut. All the shops are shut. You can order food. And these are just like takeaway stuff, pick up things, but only essential businesses are open. And for some people, that's just they can't understand that. And I don't want to get too political with this, but locking a human being up for this amount of time has consequences to someone's mental well-being, to their health, particularly for people that are single or people that live alone or live in an area that is isolated. And that is all of the things that I've been going through. And this is not a pity party because I know that things out there are fucking tough. I watched what was happening in the Middle East to Palestine. Sorry, my brain's a little bit scrambled. Like even there, like you can see my brain's just completely scrambled. This is not a pity party. This is basically me trying to explain where I'm at mentally and trying to figure out a way of just getting through this next 4 weeks. Hopefully we will be unlocking earlier, but for me, it's kind of like a day by day, hour by hour. And I'm going to explain that. It feels like I get these waves of extreme depression that are just crippling. I get waves of futilism. I feel completely futile. And I was already atomized for whatever reasons to begin with in my life. I was already like very much a hermit. I'm okay being on my own. I'm okay with that. But when it's enforced for mass amounts of time, it really, really forces you to go inside yourself and really question and really look at who you are, what you're doing, where you're at, why am I here? All these big questions that we all have. Well, I do. And I'm a deep thinker, if you haven't noticed in my channel. Like I can talk fast and I can drop a lot of like heavy, big things in a very quick, small amount of time. So yeah, lockdown has been really just amplifying everything that was inside of me, like up to like level 100, level 1000. Like that's where it's at this point. I have these waves of loneliness and sadness and angst. My chest is tight. My muscles are very, very like stiff and tight. When I wake up in the morning, my joints are aching and we've gone through this process here in Australia where it's been stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, unlock, lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. That's gone on 6 times. And we're so far behind in terms of vaccination rates to where the rest of the world is. But I know that we're on track for unlocking, but in some of these moments that are just coming over me like daily, I'm completely suicidal. And that's not, like, that's how I feel some days. Like, it's just, and that's why I'm trying to make this video, because I feel like I'm just trying to explain how I feel. And I cannot be the only one that feels like this. And I live in a house. Some people live in tiny little apartments. They're all cramped in. And I think that before COVID, I feel like everything was moving really into hyper online, dating apps, hookup apps, like social media. I feel like it's like there's not, like, back in the day, it was all face to face. Like back in the early 80s, 90s, late 80s, 90s, early 2000s, before this all happened, people had to meet face to face. People had to see each other face to face. And I believe that humans are a social species. We are a socially interdependent species. We are tribal, and we're looking for our tribe, and we're also hierarchical. That's what humans are. Yep. And like, I just feel that putting someone in a stage of fragmentation, if they already were atomized before, just it completely blows and amplifies that loneliness. It really, really does. And just let me have a sip of my tea. Yeah, it completely amplifies it to like such a high level that I'm getting physically sick. I'm getting physically ill. And humans are a social species, and to separate people and keep people on this level of separation is already going to be so damaging. I don't believe COVID would really start mental health problems. I feel like COVID's going to blow mental health problems, and lockdowns are going to blow the mental health problems that people had already completely up. If you had like an eating disorder, your eating disorder got worse. If you had any type of like mental illness before this, then it just got worse. Because it's just like, humans are like a social species, yeah, like an animal in a forest. And say like a deer, it can wander off from its group of deers, but its natural state is back with the other deers. And that's what's going to cause the most damage. That's what's going to cause, like, other than people obviously getting sick or dying, that's one of the things that's going to, it's really going to amplify that, especially with kids, especially with people that were still forming. To say that I'm unhappy with the government is just like an understatement. I feel particularly in Victoria, the way that it's been handled has just been so poorly done. And, I can't say anything about my opinions on things because I get censored. I feel trapped. I also feel in general that people have become way too wanting to be seen the right way, wanting to be politically correct, wanting to be perfect when they talk, and trying to be inclusive. But in doing that, it just overrides reality. And that's virtual signaling. And that is toxic positivity. The world is imperfect. It really is. And I don't believe that we came here to have the human experience for it to be perfect. I believe that trauma creates expansion, and I believe life is painful in general. But I feel I believe socially, how do I explain this? Basically, I feel like in general, humans, but what I'm saying is if I could pinpoint it down to one particular thing, I just feel like the glue that's holding humans together socially, spiritually, on every level is fraying, it's collapsing. I feel that the glue of connection between people has gone. It's collapsing. I feel that there's no census on reality anymore, you know? And that's what it comes back to, that toxic positivity thing that I see particularly just in life on Instagram, but also in general with like spiritual people, the spiritual movements that go on. Everyone's just like, I just feel the result of like late capitalism, basically. And I know this message in this video is ranty because I don't know where I'm going with it, but I'm just expressing like, I might cover a couple of things in this video, podcast, whatever, is that there's just no consensus on reality anymore, and everything seems hollow, everything seems superficial, everything seems fake. Everyone is appearing to be something that they're not, and I believe body dysmorphia is something that's really fucking really happening in the world. And I believe social media is projecting really, really fucked up, toxic things that we're all addicted to. And it's making us compete with each other on levels, quite frankly, which are insane. I think that we're all addicted to our phones, and it's not healthy to be, I don't know, like, it's just, I don't even now, like, my thoughts are so jumbled. I'm trying to capture a moment in my life right now where I'm like literally having a meltdown. And being in my head is not a good place to be a lot of the time. I'm a very intelligent and complicated person. And in order to understand me and receive me, you have to be able to like hold space for that. So you need to be able to understand me. And one of the things that I've really come to terms with in my life is that I really don't have much connection on a really deep level with anyone. Like, I don't feel people, I feel like I scare people. I feel like being extrasensory, which is not like an ego thing, being able to look at someone and just understand them and deeply see them means that I can't look at them without their flaws. And that's become a curse for me. And I think that when people are around me, sometimes they can feel that I see that. I see their shame, their guilt, their greed, their spiritual filth. I can see that. So I see that on a mass level. And that's why I've become so reclusive. Like, I haven't gone out in 10 years to like a club or a bar. And I don't go to public places a lot, even before COVID. I, do what I have to do to support myself, and that's kind of it. And I don't really have a lot of friends because I feel atomized, but I won't go into reasons of why that is in this video. That will be maybe another video. And yeah, so it's incredibly lonely just in general. I'm in a space of basically emotional deprivation. I'm in a status of emotional separation, and I'm in like a state right now where I worry that I can find people that can actually fucking receive me. And I'm very aggressively real with the things that are happening in this world. And I stay away from the spiritual community in general because, and this is going to be triggering to some people, but I don't really give a fuck. It's my truth. It can't hurt you if it's not true. But I feel that over the past couple of years, the aesthetic of everything has become the leading force of things, particularly with tarot and the spiritual community. And it really saddens me. It makes me really sad because it's just all about people trying to acquire social capital. And it's just kind of like people trying to appear to be like that thing where it's like they're editing themselves. Like, when we put ourselves out there, only putting forth a part of us that we think will be received best by others. But it's not who we are. And I find it's more based, particularly with the tarot and the spiritual community, it's very cliquey. It's very trends come and go and everyone kind of copies each other. And it's all about the capitalism. It's all about the consumerism of someone's work and then discarding them, basically. And it seems that's the way that it's gone. And I never felt really welcome in the tarot community. I never felt welcome in general, I feel like people like to come across in a way that's, like I said, is always, what the majority of what everyone else thinks rather than think for themselves. I've come across most people that I found in general, not just in the tarot community, are mentally unstable. And that's not in a good way, in a way that is in some kind of space that is clearly in cognitive dissonance, where they create a reality in their head and then enforce that on other people. I see that spirituality has become more of a coping mechanism for life than it has been like a tool to navigate life. And that saddens me. And it's all about it's the same things being repeated again and again and again and again on a loop. And yeah, it just seems fatty and fad-like in the sense of westernized American consumerism, where it's like, what deck have you got next? What deck have you got next? What decks come? Who gives a fuck about the deck? Who gives a fuck about the tarot card? I'd be more concerned about watching a video about someone that's able to give a decent reading and understands the cards. It seems that spirituality is and the tarot has become like a marketing thing that is just more about the physical product than it is about the connection to it. It's more about it's more about the consumerism of an object that really is about what's inside of you, if that makes sense. And I have to be coming from a place of truth with this, because this has been something that's been coming up a lot, in the tarot world, in the spiritual world, is basically more, you just don't need tarot. The power of understanding what's happening in the world and the power of understanding what's happening in you should have access to that. Tarot is just a physical object at the end of the day. It's just cards with symbols and images on it that evoke something within you. But we should be getting to a stage where we're training ourselves where we don't need tarot cards. You have everything that you need is in you. when it comes to, you're a tool, you're an extension of source. And that's weird coming from me, because I I sell tarot cards. So to say that, I'm obviously telling the truth, because it's in my best interest to not say that. But I'm telling you, there's far too much concern over the aesthetic of something than it is about, the knowledge of it. And I'm not being a gatekeeper here, but I never felt connected to the community. I never felt received. I've been told a lot, oh, your artwork's very good, it's very beautiful. And I've had a lot of people try and deconstruct my work, and a lot of haters, and that's fair. I understand not everyone likes my work. I've never been unkind to anyone in the community. I've always been very supportive of new people making work. I've been very supportive of artists. I'm an artist that supports other artists, basically. And that's where I've always come from, a place of love. I've never engaged in copying other people or kind of following other people. I kind of just have my own path that I follow. And yeah, I'm a practicing occultist. Yes, I'm into this stuff hardcore, the hardcore metaphysics. I'm into magic. I'm into all of this stuff. I'm into astrology. I'm into just, a lot of different things. So yeah, I don't know. Even now I feel lost. So please forgive me if this video sounds a little bit jumbled, because I feel completely wonky. I feel wonky, I'm so wonky right now, but hey, I'm vulnerable. This is how I feel. This is what's happening in my life. And so I'm just going to be real with it. And I think people can appreciate that. And I think a lot of what I'm saying here is obviously it's not it's obvious as hell. It's not something that could be a shock to you. Yeah, so I think a part of this video is me coming to the conclusion that I'm just moving on with my life, and I'm moving on with other things. and I'm moving on into spaces where I feel that I can be seen and I feel that I can be understood. What I really value more as an artist than just appraisal and adulation for my work is being understood and having someone say that they read my book or they read my intro in my guidebook that, you know, talks a little bit about my first experiences with tarot and mysticism. And it talks about like my shadow story, like why I wanted to create the deck and what was the motivation behind that, like why would I, you know, birthing that into the world. And this deck is hand-drawn. My tarot cards that I made were hand-drawn. And yes, I was in poverty. Yes, it has changed my life financially. I'm not going to lie about that. Which I feel has taken the edge off me a little bit because I spent 4 years really, really struggling at a time in my life to make the deck. And then everything flipped upside down. And suddenly I went from struggle to kind of like living a much better life, like having, you know, basically living like a way better life. And that's what I wanted for myself. But I feel like it took my edge away a little bit. I feel like as soon as I started getting more luxury, like more luxurious, or I felt like I took my shoes off a little bit, like I had a big spiritual subconscious sigh of relief, like, well, I'm glad that really dark part of my life's over. And I've got this house and I've got all this new stuff and, you know, I'm not financially stressed at that level that I was back then. It took away the drive for me. I think like it took away the hunger. I'm not hungry for my art the way that I was before. And this is not just because of COVID. Like this is not just because, you know, I've had lots of time. Like who would feel creative right now when you're in a lockdown? Like what artist feels like creative and motivated when they're trapped in, like when they feel unhappy and depressed? Like, so it's hard to create art. Obviously I know I'm drifting off on another topic, but yeah, it is what it is. And it is very hard to create art when you're spiritually feel dead inside and you're in some state of like, you know, panic mode. I know that mass amounts of cortisol are released into the body when you're in that level of stress, which I think I may have mentioned earlier in the video, and I feel like I'm just like on the other side of that. Like I'm literally hanging. I'm just hanging on my feet from day to day. I'm in a haze. I don't think straight. My diet's terrible. My sleep's terrible. I'm trying to have really like negative, dark, heavy thoughts about my life, about my past. I know I'm veering off the spiritual subject, but I'll come back to it, I promise. The tarot stuff that I was wanting to talk about. But yeah, I just feel completely and utterly scrambled. And I remember just like before this lockdown came on, I felt like I was in a good place. I was able to, you know, do more exercise. I was able to have that routine and I was able to go out, and just simple things that I took for granted, like made me happier. And now they're taken away and now I feel more lost, you know, like I think that's one thing that's made me appreciate a little bit more about life is that we take everything for granted, you know, just being able to go down the street and get a cup of coffee, just being able to drive out of your house. Like when that's taken away, you really feel that, you know, you feel the absence of the thing that you just assumed would always be there. And when you're not in that state of like deprivation on some level, you can't relate to that. That's one thing I've always said. I can't relate to things that I am not. I can't relate to things that I don't know. So yeah, back before lockdown, I had more of a routine, but now I'm just completely out of it. And yeah, it's just such a mess. And I have like all these things like that go through my head that just go up and down. My moods, like I have these massive mood swings, and from the time I wake up to the time like it's just like waves of just all of these different feelings just come over you. And, you know, that isolation is a form of torture, you know, putting someone in an isolated cell in a jail is separating someone from their natural state. So it's going to cause them pain because our natural state is together. So I've had a lot of time to reevaluate as well about the direction of where I want to go. And back to the, the spiritual thing, I'll get back to that, is that sorry, I'm drained. I'm lost. Back to the spiritual thing I was trying to get back to is that I feel that I've really checked out of like the idea of a tarot deck or making another tarot deck or making an oracle deck. I think I'd be open to the collaboration because I'd like to work with someone else on, projects in the future, because it's always me on my own doing everything on my own, and to have someone to bounce energy off and, that really gets me and motivates me and inspires me, like that have to be at a level that I feel is where I'm at, and really be interested in being really seriously making something. I'd love to have someone that I could, build something beautiful with, but for now, I am not going to be making any more decks, and I have moved on into a really different phase in my life, and I decided that I want to make storybooks for kids. I want to make something that I really do think about my life, and I don't know if I'm going to have kids. I don't think I'm going to, and so I do think about, like, when I'm gone, my DNA isn't out in the world. When I'm gone, my, a part of me isn't going to live on physically in this world. And I kind of think about all I have is my art and my ideas and my mind and my stories. And that when I'm gone, that will be the only thing that's left of me out in the world, like on a bookshelf somewhere. And I've come to terms with that. I'm coming to terms with that. The fact that I don't have a family in the strictest sense. The fact that I never felt received by my own family at all. Lockdown will do that to you. Like a lot of these things really play on your mind. And so I came to think about like what I want to do. And after a while, I ended up doing a really crazy thing. I booked a hotel room and I stayed there overnight, and I just took my, a recording device and paper and texters and sticky tape and a bottle of Jack Daniels. And I got into the hotel room and I just wrote on ideas and wrote words. And those words came together with images, and that's kind of visually how I operate. And so I had this idea about a mermaid that doesn't cry. I like the title, like even just the title will get me going. Like it turns me on. It gets my heart going. It gets that energy going. I can feel that there's potential there straight away. Even with the title, like Mermaids Don't Cry, or The Boy Who Lived Inside a Volcano, which is also the book that I'm currently working on at the moment. And so I think, what can I put out in the world that is of use, that is of service, that isn't just about the aesthetic? Because I believe art should be storytelling. I thought to myself, what can I do of service? And I haven't, I'm not going to be doing another deck because, of that. But not that it was a bad experience, by the way, because I have really enjoyed it. And I still love tarot. Don't get me wrong. But, and that's another video for another day, of the true depth of how I feel about, how that all went out, how that happened for me. But yeah, I regress. So back to where I was saying was that I want to make conscious kids books, and I want to take like a lesson or a very powerful allegory or like a very powerful message, like that has a heart, that has something of value, and I want to make something that's beautiful and put it out into the world. And it's very hard to support yourself as an artist. You have to either be with a gallery, or you have to be able to sell work independently, create art, and then market it, because the commission rates are very high, you see, particularly in my country, Australia. It's 50% actually to be an artist, to be with a gallery. Or you have to create art and then mass produce it, which is something like a tarot deck, or it could be a book. And that's where I'm at now. And so I will talk a little bit about my kids' book that I'm working on at the moment. because people have been asking me, what's this all about? What's this book? Why book? And that was I just answered that then when I just said that, I want to make something special and beautiful that has something that showcases my work, because my illustrations, I don't like the word illustration. I prefer the word art. My artwork is very evocative and very colorful, and it's got lots of energy, and it's all nature based. So I enjoyed doing the Algoliath tarot deck because it was all black and white and it was all grey lead, but I was really ready to retire from that, monochrome feel and go into something that was or is very vibrant. And I did a few different pieces after I did the deck, which you can see on my website. In if you go to my Instagram, click on the link to my website, you can see I've got prints there. But so I decided I was going to, I want to merge my mind and my story and my lessons that I've learned in my life of 35 years into something that a kid could connect with and understand and relate to. And I had this idea that I wanted to do something in nature that was very kind of exotic. And I'm still kind of storyboarding it. I'm still trying to find my feet with it. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. I'm kind of way out of my depths. And I think that doesn't really help with the anxiety of feeling the pressure of having to make art, work on a project when you feel completely uncreative. And then because you haven't created work and done something productive, you feel like down on yourself because you wasted time. And that's where I'm at. And I know I'm jumping in this video. I'm so sorry, but at the same time, I'm not sorry because it's just how I feel. So please bear with me. I'm going somewhere with it. And so I decided that this, the title that I came up with, I've written 3 books. So I've done The Tale of the Two Sisters, which are about 2 witches that never really saw eye to eye that were sisters. And I did The Mermaids Don't Cry, which is dealing with grief and sadness. And this one that I'm working on now, my first one, they'll be like down the track later after this one, is The Boy Who Lived Inside a Volcano. And so the concept of it is anger. It's dealing with anger, and it's dealing with people taking responsibility for their behavior. And our behavior is driven generally by how we feel, our emotions. And we're just not taught to deal with our emotions at all. We're just not taught to, particularly for men, we're not taught to understand them and navigate them. And our emotions are a compass to our internal guidance system, and yet we're taught to completely ignore it. And so there's a lot happening in the book, and it is complicated, and it's saying something, and I don't know, I know where it wants to go, but I'm still letting it kind of tell me where it wants to go, if that makes sense. So it follows the story of a young boy called Ung, and he's like a baby that's been found abandoned in a river, and he lives in the bottom of a great deep jungle, and Ung is completely rejected by his tribe. And the whole premises of the story is the volcano isn't it's not a literal volcano. It's actually about the volcano that's inside of him. And so dealing with pain and anger is actually not a real emotion. It is a secondary emotion. It's an emotion. Like the 2 most emotions that we have are fear or love, and everything branches off that. But anger is actually a secondary emotion, which is a cover emotion. And so when we're in a place of anger, we're in a place of pain. And so anger comes in to shift something, move something quickly, make me feel better again, make me feel in control. I feel out of control. But the pain of loss is there. Something has hurt you. And all fear is fear of loss. And so we have to feel hurt or rejected to be in a place of pain or of loss or, whatever reason we're in sadness for. So the story is purely based on a magical jungle, and I can't say too much. I don't want to give it away, but the story is about him turning into a volcano monster. And so the consequences of being alienated, the consequences of being rejected, the consequences of someone that is in fragmentation, that they're not in integration, they haven't been received, they've been pushed away and hurt. And this is what happens, particularly with the male psyche, because, you know, like I said, men are kind of taught to, you know, ignore out their emotions. And it also has, you know, not the cliche happy ending, but it has an ending which leaves it with like a question mark, where you can take it where you want to go with it. And he meets someone else in the little story, and that's the representation of the divine feminine, and that receptive energy that comes in that isn't aggro. And one thing about it is that we live in Australia here, it's 1 in 6 relationships are domestically violent, which is really fucked up. And you kind of go, why? Like, why is that? We've got to ask why. People all driving around angry. Why? Pain. So, yeah, that's a little bit about it. I can't talk too much about it because I do really want it to be a surprise. And I did make contact with a lot of publishers, or I am continuing to do so, because I'm trying to, you know, get myself out there. And a friend told me that, you know, if you don't, you know, put yourself out there and, you know, reach out to these publishers, that you don't really get a chance. You know, if they don't know about you, they can't see you. They can't, you know, represent you. So back in February, in between one of my lockdowns, I sent off a lot of emails to, you know, and shots and manuscripts, and submitted my work to quite a few different publishing houses. And I never heard anything. And a lot of them at the moment, to get stuff published is also not easy, particularly around Australia because of COVID and stuff like that. So it's been hard, because I'm very like down to earth. I just want to go meet them. I want to look them in the eye. I really would like to go with someone in my own country. So yeah, it's kind of hard. You're trying to put yourself out there, and you're trying to get people to take a chance on you and want to, you know, see value in your work, basically, which is what all artists want. They want to be received. By the way, back to my art, just quickly off that subject, I would rather someone reach out to me and ask me a really complicated question about life, or about what I think about things, spiritual, life-related, like anything, like heavy stuff, and feel connected to them that way, rather than someone just giving me like a compliment, because that doesn't make me feel seen. It doesn't make me feel valued. But back to the point. So I'm going to go back. That's how I operate. Like what I really want ultimately as an artist is when you create something in your head and you bring it into the physical world, and then someone else understands the meaning behind it, because you feel seen, you feel integrated, you feel like, wow, someone gets me, someone understands me. And that's ultimately what I want. And I really hope that happens with this book. So anyway, back to the story. I submitted my work, the story, The Boy Who Lived Inside a Volcano, and I have been still. If you're a publisher out there, or if you know someone who's a publisher, you know, hey, it's a small world. Let me know, because I'm looking, yeah. And I had some interest from a publishing house in London. They got back to me, and they just offered me a contract, just straight up, right there and then. But it just didn't feel right. And I consorted with a lawyer and, you know, someone who's very legally good at that stuff, like technical jargon, and, you know, really unpacked what was on offer. And I also spoke to some friends. If you're listening, hello, hey Angel. I spoke to some friends, and it just didn't seem right. So I decided to continue back on the path of self-publishing, but I'm also coming to understand that I can also do find a publisher who will just publish my work, but doesn't really have a lot of say in the production of the work. They will to some capacity, but that also means that the artist's cut or percentage that they get in the end is also like a lot less. Also, by the way, off the subject, when people ask me, will the El Goliath Tarot be in stores? The answer is no. And I can honestly tell you straight up, and I've never said anything about this. I've never seen anyone say this. But if you don't know this already, generally to get a book deal or to publish something and get it into a shop, particularly with books, after you've got a literary agent and then you've got an agent or a publisher that represents you, and then you work with their marketing team, and then you work with their book design people, then you work with all of the different elements that they need to put into something to, sell your work, get your work out there. And then by the time it ends up on a bookshop, by the time it ends up on a shelf in Kmart, Walmart, Target, wherever it is, after it sells, after tax, actually no, before tax, the average price or the average percentage that an artist writer get is less than 10% of the sale price. So so just let that sink in. So if you don't know, so it is that's the deal. So you get less than 10% of the sale price per unit. And in some cases, it can even be less than that, depending on which publishing brand, which way you publish the book or which deal you had with them. But that on average is generally the case, which to me was just unbelievably bewildering, sorry, that would be the case. And, so yeah, if you worked with a writer and they wrote it and you illustrated something and you put it together, that 10% would be split. So you'd be looking at 5% each, which is just insane. And so that to me is terrifying because, with my work, it's very labor intensive. Particularly it's been dragged out with COVID. So this project should really wrapped up by now, but I'm still not done. I'm just kind of getting started on it. Well, I feel that I am anyway, is that, oh God, there's just so much to my train of thought so scrambled. But yeah, there's just so much that goes into it. And 4 years of your life is a huge commitment to a project. And then to just get such little return, it doesn't, at the end of the day, we're all trying to survive, and we're all trying to not just survive, we're trying to thrive. And not in a greedy capitalistic way, but in a way where you feel yes, I do worry about my future as an artist, as a self-represented artist. I do worry about how I'm going to retire. What am I going to do? These questions really come to me, and I'd like to see them talked about a lot more. But like I said, I feel like I've moved away from the tarot world. I've moved away from this. So I'm still spiritual, but I've moved away from a lot of that old stomping ground that I was in, and that's okay. That is okay. A lot of people come and go, and it's okay to change their mind. It's okay to move on. It's okay to move on to different things. You have different things that you're interested in. But for me, yeah, my time with this tarot community or the spiritual community has really, it's shifted into a different place for me, and I feel differently about it. And I've had a lot of time to think about that as well. So I am moving into the kids' books. I'm moving into literature. I'm moving into that type of field, which is still similar, but I will be dealing primarily with a different audience, I guess, and a different demographic, I guess. And that's just where my journey's going. And that doesn't take away anything from everything that I did in my work, in my book, or my art, in my tarot deck, because at the time it was real. For me then it's real. It's real now, it is, but it doesn't change, the work that I did still stands, and in my heart it does. And I'm very happy with the choices that I made. I look back at it and I'm very, I look at it and go, yeah, I spoke from my heart. It might have taken 4 years to do, and that's 4 years of solid daily work, because people don't understand what goes into these projects. But yeah, that's how it was for me. And yeah, so I'm moving in a different direction, and I believe that, a lot of people will come across and follow me across from this tarot world. I think a lot of them will come, because it's not just tarot, people that are interested in witchcraft are generally interested in the divination. People that are into divination are generally into, some level of occult history or mysticism or witchy, witchcraft, like literally like spell work, candle work, crystals, astrology. Like there's just so much that goes under that umbrella. So my book will be more predominantly for a younger audience, but a lot of you guys have kids, I guess. A lot of you guys have people that you would share that with that, would also appreciate it as well. So I don't think I'll just be kind of starting from scratch. And I've made some really, really beautiful friends in this field, like in the tarot field. Sadly, a lot of them are not in Australia. One or two here is, but not, my population is only 26 million in Australia. We're looking at like over 300 million in some countries. So yeah, I made a lot of friends. I'm very grateful for everything that is currently happening for me in that regard, in terms of like just being able to support myself through my deck and also being able to be seen. I'm very grateful for the time that I've had in the spiritual community. And I'm not leaving, but I'm just, moving in a different space. And I think that's kind of the gist of what's wanting to come out in this video, other than me like telling you about how mentally fucked I am because of lockdown and how mentally hard this has been for me. But yeah, everything's so amplified, and it just like, it's like a fish. It just swims around in my head in circles. I feel like fucking Dory from like Finding Nemo or something. Yeah, so I don't know. Look, this video has been a bit like crazy. I'm crazy. I'm feeling like fucked up. That's my thoughts on where I'm going. That's my thoughts on where I've been. That's my thoughts of how I feel. And it's my truth. That's the beauty of, I guess, of me. I'm just not concerned about like people judging me. It's just super boring. And I just call it like I see it. It is what it is. And that's okay. So yeah, please know that if I don't reply to you at this time, it's just because I'm fried. Don't take it personally. It's not. And if you're going to connect with me, really like connect with me real, like come for me real. I'm not one of those people that is just like come for me really soft, flirty shit or any type of beating around the bush. Like don't go around things or try and say, if you're going to reach out to me and connect with me, I want the real thing. I want real. I want raw. Like just like this video. Like today I'm fucked up. Today I was really like bad. If you're in a lockdown and you're out there and you need real talk, if you come for me real, I'll come for you real. Yeah, come bring me like the real shit, the real heavy stuff. Like tell me the truth. How are you feeling? And you have a safe place in me. I guess that's what I'm saying. Like even not just with like coronavirus or lockdown, just in general, like if you need to talk to someone that's been there or is currently in that space, then I'm here. And I do answer DMs. And the level of energy that I feel others give me in their interaction and depth is generally what I give back in return. But yeah, if you're going to come, please bring me, reach out to me and let's connect, but in a deep, real way. I hope that made sense. And I'm saying this in the nicest way possible. Sorry, I'm going to have to go in a minute. But yeah, that's where I'm feeling. And please just, I know I'm going to get through this. I know I have to. I just have to. And I've been through a lot in my life. This is not like a gripe video. I'll just say it. I've been homeless at one point. I've been raped. Yes, I'm a man that has been raped. Yeah. I've had so many bullies. I've had a crazy life. Like I've traveled the world and I've done a few different things here and there. I've had people, just fuck me over, for better use of the word. And that's why, because I see the world and understand it, I'm not afraid of the dark side of things, like understanding how things really work becomes very, and that extrasensory thing kicks in too, because I can see the truth of things. Like I have an ability to see truth. I have an ability to, and that's not just like my version of truth. Like I can see deeper into things. And yeah, I am privy to things that are coming up in the next couple of years with humanity and with the world that we're in and where it's going. And quite frankly, it terrorizes me at night. I don't sleep well. But yeah, like I mentioned, the fabric and the glue that's holding society together is becoming weaker, and it scares me. And that also applies to every community, because we're all humans at the end of the day in these little sub-communities. And then, the more atomized we get, the further out it goes. So the more, how do I say, if you don't fit in, it breaks down into further stages of not fitting in. So if you weren't alienated because of this, you're more alienated because of that, and then you don't connect to people because of this, and it goes on and on and on. And the further out you go in how different you are and where you don't fit in, is the harder and harder it gets, because it's harder to find other like-minded kin. It's harder to find people that you feel can receive you. It's harder to find people that, get you. You're like trying to find your fucking tribe. I'm still looking, I'm really looking. So anyway, I'm so ranting and I'm so sorry, but yeah, that's just how I feel. That's where I'm at. I'm going to end this video now because it's just like nearly, 50 minutes. So thank you for holding on and listening to, what I have to say. A bit of a chat about how I'm feeling, living through lockdown, telling you the truth about where I'm at. Or also my, apology video if I don't get back to people. I just don't have a lot of capacity for everyone. I just, at this point right now, I don't. Being real, the tarot community is completely fake. It's hollow. It's phony as fuck. And I know that, and I feel that, and it's obvious. I don't give a shit whether that offends anyone. It's the truth. It's how I feel based on my reality of like everything that I see. My advice right now is get out of that shit and start doing the work, and stop using Mercury retrograde as as basically a crutch. Like if things don't go wrong in our lives, sometimes it just isn't because of Mercury or the planetary alignments. It's you. It's all in you. And also, have you always noticed that it tends to be us always looking at the world going, they're wrong, I'm right? How often do we look at it going, I'm wrong, they're right? So, it tends to be that way. Like, you got to ask yourself, we've got to check ourselves. We all have to check ourselves. But yeah, mostly for the most part, that's how I feel about the tarot community. Summing it up, it's really just consumeristic. It's all very shallow. I'd love to see more educational videos out there that are sharing your path and telling, and not just repeating what other people are saying and parroting it. Really showing me your practice, telling me who you are, not just about and telling and being unafraid to be disliked. Being able to go, this is just how it is. Like, why do I have to heighten it or glamorize it or lie or pretend? Just be yourself. Be fucking real. And have intellectual conversations that really are able to be understood by people that maybe are not in the community, because it does help others that want to come into it as well, that are starting out, little baby readers and baby shamans. But yeah, it tends to be about people just trying to gain social capital and trying to gain a platform and a following by, passing judgment and asserting themselves over other people's work. That's what for me, in a lot of ways, it really has come to. And also I'd like to see a lot of neo-political stuff come out as well, where it ties into the world, how it exists, where it's at, and how that also influences us. I'd like to see more videos on social engineering, which talk about trickling down how an object can be consumed. Like what I was saying before with the physical objects, the aesthetic of something, the look of something is more important than the functionality of something or your connection to it. So anyway, I'm ranting. I will leave it here. I hope that you found this video insightful. Look, that's where I'm going, working on my book. I've just talked about a lot of stuff, and I know it all is crazy, but that's just where I'm at, and that's how I feel. Thank you so much for holding space for me in this podcast. I'm going to wrap it up, and I promise, and I will see you. I'm going to get back to, maybe I'll do a few more of these little kind of, chat videos, or maybe I will continue back with the light-sided series of the Zodiac. So I will see you guys soon. Bye.